Yesterday, a video emerged where supposedly Russian Army Chief of Staff Valery Gerasimov was visiting the Russian Army headquarters of the occupied southern Ukraine district, the headquarters in Zaporozhye region. Well, I find it very hard to believe, but as much as I would like to report that this is fake, I cannot. Because I don't know, it might be real also. Russia feels the pressure of Zelensky being such a public guy, friends with everybody and all over likable, and visiting his troops, setting an example with his behavior that they cannot fall behind. Now the Russians are sending their chief of staff. Another way to read it is that the purge in the Russian army in the southern Ukraine occupied district of the Russian army has ended. Putin has replaced some commanders and now he has sent the chief of staff to overlook the situation, if the commanders are working themselves in, how are they doing, if the purge was successful, to monitor the loyalty level of the commanders in southern Ukraine. It gives us the message that the army purge might be over. Because why send the chief of staff if the purge is still ongoing? That puts like the period on the process. Also, after Valery Gerasimov returned from Zaporozhye, the Russian Ministry of Defense official report about the Russian army situation in southern Ukraine is deemed complex. Well, complex is not the right word I would use. Problematic would be the real word I would use, but we see things differently, of course. On the 1st of August, information emerged that Ukraine struck Russian ships, yes, actual 2 ships, patrol ships of the Russian Black Sea fleets with 3 sea drones, and they hit one of the ships. The ships didn't sink, but there were casualties. According to reports, this is an intercepted call between a Russian Ka-52 and a coastal aviation services. And in the call we find out that there are 5 casualties, 5 wounded and 1 KIA from this attack. So it was no minor attack. We have no footage of the attack, we have no photos of the attack. But according to Russian reports, it happened. Ukraine successfully struck a Russian ship in the middle of the Black Sea, 350 kilometers from Sevastopol, and there were casualties. This is no minor thing. I will also show you the place from the map. See, this is Sevastopol, 350 kilometers from it to the middle of Sevastopol, around this area. I'll zoom into it a little bit also. I cannot really be more specific because nobody really knows where it happens. You can see it better on this square right here. 350 kilometers southwest from Sevastopol, 2 Russian ships and a Ka-52 were involved and evacuations were needed. Now these 2 ships are patrol ships sent out to patrol the area, and there are also rumors that there was a cargo ship nearby carrying weapons from Syria to southern Ukraine or Crimea. Now this is one of the very first successful attacks against Russian ships in a very long time by Ukrainian sea drones, and it's not just an attack. Even if they didn't sink the ship, it shows a lot more, and the effects of it are a lot more than just not sinking the ship. Russia recently, at the end of July, pulled out of the grain deal, stating that everything that moves between Crimea and Odessa will be considered as a military vessel and will be attacked. So they basically put out a threat showing their force on the Black Sea. But the thing is, Ukraine really doesn't have a navy, and still they're able to push back. They're able to use their sea drones to sink the Russian navy ships if necessary, meaning Russian threats are empty because they cannot force them. Ukraine is the one showing muscles on the Black Sea. So the grain deal, whether Russia is in it or not, might not be that important anymore. Of course, they are attacking the seaports of Odessa, destroying the grain in those ports, which is a terrorist attack and very painful for Ukraine. But on the sea itself, Russian Black Sea fleet has lost most of their power. The major power in Black Sea is Turkey now. As of now, Turkey has stayed out of it. How long will it stay that way? And will Turkey and Ukraine make another grain deal without Russia completely? Because they don't really need Russia. Ukraine can push back Russian Black Sea fleet with their sea drone fleet. It's a weird new reality. On this photo we see another Ukrainian troop with a UGV or unmanned ground vehicle, which is this little nice Wally vehicle right here. And look at the weird mine on top. It's a vehicle that mines the ground. Usually they use anti-tank mines and they're able to mine some roads and some forests without going personally there, therefore saving lives. Also, it's quite fast. But this mine here is not an anti-tank mine. This is a directional mine. It's basically a Soviet Claymore MON 200. It's a continuation from the Soviet Claymore-like mine MON 100. And this MON 200 mine is known to be strong enough to not only completely eliminate infantry, but also pierce through the softer armor and also damage helicopters flying above. It's a multi-purpose mine. Recently we have started seeing more of these UGVs laying mines on unmanned ground vehicles with mining capabilities. I've seen some drone footage of these also. I think they're incredibly useful. Russian tactic of heavily mining everything has unfortunately proven to be very effective against the Ukrainian counteroffensive, and I hate reporting this, but I cannot ignore the facts. The mines are the worst and the biggest thing slowing the Ukrainians down, and they unfortunately demand a lot of casualties from the Ukrainians, manpower and machinery, armor, everything. So I guess what else is left for Ukraine than to use the same tactic and heavily mine everything, and this is why we have been seeing a lot more of these UGVs. And they do look cool, all futuristic and stuff. We have some new information about the last video's topic, yesterday's topic, where Belarusian aircraft, 2 helicopters breached NATO airspace. I made a video that, oh, Poland could wipe the ground with Belarusian military, and a lot of you commented actually that, hey Artur, put your feet on the ground. If an airspace was violated like that and Polish radars couldn't see it, then how good can the Polish radars and anti-aircraft systems be? Well, the thing is, most of the radars have a certain area from where they start to be effective from, and it's usually above treetops, a lot more actually, and if helicopters are like nudging the treetops, flying so low as possible, sometimes even the newest radars will not pick them up. The oldest ones definitely won't. It's the oldest trick in the book. That's why all of the aircraft in Ukraine, Russian and Ukrainian choppers and planes both fly like they're wanting to hug the trees, under the radar as they call it. So it doesn't really show the Polish radar capabilities. And other comments were, why didn't Poland shoot these down? Even if they would have seen those on the radars, I don't think they still would have shot them down. I think they would have sent fighter jets or their own choppers to intercept the Belarusian choppers, but not shoot them down. I mean, we are talking about a direct conflict with NATO. As much as I would like to see Poland to show their capabilities and just wipe the ground with those choppers, I gotta use my brains here. Shoot first, think later, not a good idea when it comes to NATO versus Russia immediately. Of course, if this becomes repeated, I think shooting down will be an option and will be a possibility. But the first incursion that happens, I'm not for the shooting down, and I know I disappoint some of you with this. But Turkey, for example, thinks differently. They have shot down a Russian fighter plane that intercepted into their airspace. They simply shot it down. It was a few years ago. And Turkey is part of NATO. It is definitely a possibility. And whatever I might think, the next time the Belarusian aviation flies over the Polish border, we might see them shot down. In the end, the Russian mindset understands the show of force. Intercepting something is not so much of a show of force than shooting it down. So you really want to speak the Russian language, you gotta shoot it down. I've recently reported almost daily and nightly Ukrainian drone attacks against Crimean targets, against Crimean Russian aviation bases or ammunition depots or barracks. Ukraine is very active in Crimea with their drones and missiles. How the tactic works is they send Storm Shadow missiles, which are incredibly expensive, but incredibly accurate and very hard to shoot down. So, therefore, they never send them alone. They always send a swarm of kamikaze drones before the Storm Shadow missiles, and we're talking minutes before. These swarm of kamikaze drones will activate the Russian anti-aircraft capabilities. They soak up all of the missiles, they exhaust the ammunition, and Russians, of course, immediately will reload those launchers. But in those 2-3 minutes when the reloading is happening, it's 10 minutes actually, Storm Shadow comes, hits, connects perfectly accurately, huge kaboom, target eliminated. That's the tactic they use in Crimea, and only recently they started using that in Crimea because Britain and France, who are the joint authors of Storm Shadow, permitted Ukraine to strike Crimea with Storm Shadow. none of the Western countries has permitted their weaponry to be used on Russian soil. Ukraine needs to strike targets on Russian soil, and they're doing that with only their kamikaze drone swarms because they don't have the Storm Shadow. Only the drone swarm is not as effective because Russians are able to shoot the drones down, and there would be no Storm Shadow following up the swarm, finishing up the job. For the drone tactics and the attacks to be more effective, and some of the comments are saying that Ukraine should be able to attack Russia because Russia is attacking Ukraine daily and nightly with drones and missiles. I agree, they should be. The West is holding Ukraine back big time. I think the West should allow all of their weapons to be used on Russian soil for what we have seen that Russia is doing to Ukraine. This is only fair, but they don't allow that. So Ukraine has to result using their very old ancient missiles to follow up to the drone swarm, like S-200 modified, S-300 modified. Ukraine has a very low stock of these missiles and they're not that effective. That's at least my 2 cents on this. I mean, put your opinion in the comments. I'll read it again and I'll bring it out in the next video. Now we'll talk about the aftermath of the Ukrainian drone attacks on Moscow recently. Of course, only 2 drones connected to their targets on the 10th floor of the Moscow skyscraper. They connected precisely to the offices of the Russian ministries. I mean, this was an incredibly precise attack. Also, a lot of the drones were shot down, as I was talking about. This was a swarm of drones, not as effective as it would have been if a missile would have followed. But 2 drones connected, resulting in the fire. And now we have the aftermath of this, where Turkmenistan Airlines announces that it's suspending all flights from Ashgabat to Moscow and back until the 22nd of August. They are deeming the Moscow airspace and the Russian airspace not safe enough for civilian flights. If the capital of Russia is deemed not safe enough, the airspace over it, this sends a message to the Russian civilians and to the Turkmenistan civilians that Russia is not able to protect themselves. Their anti-aircraft capabilities are not what the Russian Ministry of Defense is saying. They're saying they shoot everything down, fully protected, don't worry about it. And then they get hit almost daily in Crimea and twice a month in Moscow. The reports like this, airlines not wanting to fly to Moscow, they're very painful. It hugely hurts the Russian image in countries around Russia about their capabilities and the safety. Remember in the last video I reported about the massive HIMARS strike on the Russian men cluster. I mean, let's go to the map. I also again zoom into where it was. Southern Kherson. Last time I called it Northern Crimea, which is false. It's Southern Kherson Oblast. And it's right here on this beach strip. There was an open field Russian army troops training on that beach strip. And it happened for a few days actually. And a Ukrainian drone was observing that training and that every morning lineup of the Russian troops, a few companies actually, for a few days. The drone was not intercepted, not noticed, nothing. It just freely observed and waited for its time. And in one of the mornings where all 5 Russian companies were lined up for the morning lineup and checkup and roll call, St. HIMARS paid a visit at the busiest time of the lineup where Russians were practicing their communism. It's a joke, of course. Russian military bloggers, Z-bloggers, are extremely angry of how such a training, open field training, could even happen on such a public location, so close to the front lines without any air cover. I mean, Ukrainian drones just fly. They were over the water. We could see them over this area of the Black Sea, just watching this little beach strip and Russians having their party, and HIMARS just attacked. I mean, this is pure stupidity. But these are the decisions made by the newly purged Russian army in the southern Ukraine district. My friends, on this satellite photo we can see newly stationed helicopters on the Russian Berdyansk port and the airfield close to it. These are all new, these weren't there a week ago. These are mostly Mi-24s. And we can also ask, knowing how Ukraine attacks Crimea and they attack Mariupol and Berdyansk, why is not Ukraine attacking these choppers if they know they're down here? Because if we know, Ukraine knows. The thing is, Mi-24s are not that new and not that expensive, and unfortunately Russians have learned something to station them a little bit further from each other. At the beginning months of war, Russia stationed all of these helicopters, let's say, on a 100-meter area, all clustered together. So it would have taken 1 to 2 Storm Shadow missiles to eliminate 12 Mi-24s. Now they have learned these are a little bit further apart. Of course, you can attack them with drones and missiles, but you would need 12 separate targets here. You cannot attack an area because they're so far away from each other. You need to pinpoint each and every location, meaning this would take, 7, 8, maybe 10 Storm Shadow missiles one costing about £2.1 million, it wouldn't justify the cost effectiveness of this attack in any way. Storm Shadow is out. Drones can be used, but unfortunately Berdyansk, being one of the more important Russian ports in occupied southern Ukraine, it has a lot of air cover, air defense capabilities. And as I mentioned, drone swarms are going to be shot down, most of them at least. So if you send 20 drones, only 2 of them connect, you maybe take out one chopper Mi-24, which is an older chopper, and you just wasted 20 drones. So cost effectiveness and the overall effectiveness of this attack is not justifiable. The last thing that would make sense to be used is the ground-launched small diameter bomb. Very fast, very precise. Also, the cost is a lot lower than Storm Shadow, but it almost has the Storm Shadow capabilities. And why is Ukraine not using that? I don't know, maybe it's not present there yet. I do hope that Ukraine is going to use that on these choppers, because I would love these choppers to smoke carelessly, to sleep with the fishes, to be knocked out cold, as I say. And now, my friends, we will watch a video from a Ukrainian crew from the 110th Brigade operating their RM70 Vampire MLRS. Video is translated by Dimitri. His link is in the description below. I will read you the subtitles. We're given a target. I observe on the tablet where can we reach it from. We get together and go. Sounds so casual. Upon arriving, we deploy, aim. In 3 to 4 minutes, we're already ready, waiting for the command. This is a Czech MLRS RM70 Grad system. It carries 40 missiles. Oh yeah, these systems were provided by the Czech Republic, so thank you very much, the Czechs. Also, this system is one of the more used systems, or at least built on one of the more used systems in the Soviet Union. It also took part in the Soviet-Afghan war and countless wars after that. I think this system has been in like 10 to 15 different wars. So very much used. Quite effective. It's a beast. It's a proper beast machine. When you fire the whole pack, the explosions are just wow. Lads taught me to use the artillery compass, taught me and showed me. They said, today you will be on the compass. My hands were trembling. They said, calm down, it's alright, you can do it. And I did. This is my position. I run further away from the vehicle into the field. I'm the first who needs to orient the vehicle. Oh, this process is so interesting, how it actually works. You are in a random location and you have a target in a random location and you are aligning the vehicle. The missiles precisely fly at the precise time, hit at the precise location. I had no training in artillery. I don't understand any of this, but it's amazing for me to think that this can be achieved. One location to another, such an accuracy. How does it work? If you're an artillery man, and I know I have some, put it in the comments. I'm the first one who needs to orient the vehicle, then the rest of the job is on the gunner, with whom we understand each other very easily. Fire. I never served, never trained for this. I was working in construction. This is crazy. It shows how Ukraine has also mobilized their entire population. Construction guys, hairdressers, medics, everybody going to the military, learning new trades, defending their homeland. I never touched a vehicle like this with my own hands. If a situation like this emerged, I think that every man must understand that our families, homes, our land is here. We'll have the vehicles, but we need crews. It's nothing scary. Come to us. It's all good, easy and understandable. But who, if not us? Who else is meant to protect my land and my family? Men here, they go to the end. I mean, this is a very proper understanding of your nation and your land, your family. It's not like, oh, somebody will do it, my country will do it for me. Well, you are your country, so I really like this attitude. In Estonia, we might sometimes have an issue with this, people not wanting to go to conscription. Of course, conscription is incredibly tough, and it could be better. I suffered a lot mentally during my conscription days, but I did it. I had to come from Hollywood to do it. A lot of money was wasted for me to come back. I mean, I wasted some visas and opportunities, but I did it. About 50% of Estonian male population don't go through conscription, which is sad for me. There's no going back, only forward, doing their job. Whoa. Hell yeah. Looks cool. I'm hoping to be sitting here on top with my praporshik and yell joyfully. That will be awesome. Cigarette. We're bringing the victory closer. Yes, you are. I hope that soon we can say, lads, victory. We put the faces to the heroes of Ukraine. These truly are the heroes. Regular guys from construction, coming away from their lives to help their country, save their families and homeland. That's what they mean with Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. Heroyam is heroes. Honor to the heroes, honor to these guys. My friends, the most juiciest time is here and I'm excited to bring you 5 new patron names who are tier 10 and above, and get ready for some ear bleeding. Here is my Estonian pronunciation. Skroda, Leekorbett, lillkattlover54@outlook.com. Hey, you put the email, I had to read it. Sora Jott Terribilini. I think I've seen Terribilini before. Nice of you to come back after such a horrible saying of your name. Samantha Jott Terribilini. Oh, we have a dynasty of Terribilinis. Well, grazie, how is thank you in Italian? I mean, Terribilini is like an Italian name, I think. A merci for you, I'll go French here. Thank you to these 5 people for supporting the channel, I really appreciate you. And if you like what I do, Patreon link is in the description below. I'll see you there, my friends. Also, go and check out my Twitter account, because 3 times a day you get the most important news about Russia-Ukrainian war, frontline updates, which ships were sunk, which BMPs were destroyed and where. 5 minutes of reading, you know everything. Also, check out my Instagram, where you will see my whole trip to Ukraine. I've done 3 already, the 4th one is in September. Keep an eye on my Instagram. And until my next video, my friends, Slava Ukraini.